Hello, I'm Christine Beste from Reporters Without Borders, and you are listening to the Scene World podcast.
Hey, it's the Scene World podcast. I am AJ. I think that is Jörg over there hanging out in Germany. And if our internet holds out, we can actually get this intro done and out the door for once.
Yes, and you're assuming correctly. I'm indeed Jörg. Yeah.
Yes. In a minute, we are talking to Craig Stadler from Petey Vid. And if you don't know what Petey Vid is, you will in a minute. And it's actually really a really cool thing. So you should stick around and check that out. Like people aren't like people only come on to listen to us. Like this isn't the part of the podcast that's going to get skipped.
We will see. That depends on the people. Some people listen to our news items.
Yeah. So before we get to that, we have a couple of pieces of news items. Not too much because we have been churning out podcasts like butter.
Crazy.
Yes. Yeah. You've got one. I think I've got two. I'm gonna actually start with mine, and then we'll go to yours, and we'll come back to mine because that way we can alternate, and it sounds good.
Good.
The one I've got sitting right in front of me here is that Protovision is trying to fund what they call the Protopad, which is a multi-button controller pad for the C64. And the key features of this thing are that it's going to be 100% compatible with existing games. You're looking at a directional control pad plus 8 buttons. Buttons are predefined, but can be redefined by each individual game that you play. There's a button that emulates up as default, so that you don't have to, the one thing that pisses me off like crazy about C64 platformer games is that there's no jump button. It's always up on the joystick.
Well, technically there is, because with the C64 GS, there actually comes with it a two-button joystick.
Well, I've got I have and I don't know where the hell I put it. Yeah. I have a controller. It's on eBay. You can get them. I highly recommend them. They look kind of like a Nintendo, an old NES controller, but they're themed for different things. And I've got the C64 one. I'm pretty sure you've got one too. And
yeah, but I got the version for the NES, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I got the C64 GS version because that was because I wasn't really paying attention. But it's actually really cool, and it does map one of those buttons to jump, so you can actually play like when they did the Super Mario Brothers game on the C64, which was it was taken down later on, which I totally don't have because that would be wrong
illegal
to have that.
But as I was told from the Nintendo press, PR Germany department, they will never talk about retro anyway.
Yeah.
So
but either way,
the chance that they will listen to this in our lifetime is like zero. But sure, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, it makes it feel like that control pad works like it feels like you're playing it on the original NES. It also this thing that Protovision is doing is compatible with games that use the 2 additional buttons of the DB9 Cheetah Annihilator joysticks, such as Double Dragon, Turbocharge, Paradroid Redux, RoboCop 2, and Super Mario Brothers.
The original game it was designed for was Chase HQ 2.
Yeah.
That was actually shipped with the GS.
Yeah.
On a cartridge.
Yeah, and it has CIA protection. It may safely be attached or removed during operation. Now that is a bold claim to make.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll put a link to it, and I'll add some pictures probably too, because I got some right here.
Anyway, Chase HQ usually uses a space key, but since the GS has no keyboard, they mapped it to the second joystick.
Yeah.
Button.
Right.
But the thing is actually that Most joysticks, except that one joystick you mentioned for the GS,
Yes.
didn't even wire the second button properly. So the computer can do it, but for some reason they stuck with the Atari mapping.
Yeah. So they are but so they're doing that if you and the link to it, which we will put right down there, probably is protovision.games/shop/protopad. And it gives you all the features, everything that you need to know, and also how you can donate to it to make it happen, and gives you a Protopad Hall of Fame of people who have donated.
We'll put it in the podcast description.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like seeing new things like that because playing a game with I never, despite the fact that I am a C64 guy, I hate joysticks, and I could never get the hang of using joysticks to play platform games.
There are wonderful joysticks. Seriously,
there are well-made, wonderful joysticks. When you're playing a driving game, a joystick does not feel right.
Well, I'm having a flight stick that I'm
Yes.
using for test drive and stuff.
Yeah, I've gone so far. So I had a joystick, and with the release of Flight Simulator, I have actually gone and gotten my yoke so that I can actually, play like I'm really flying a plane in my spidery basement.
But we are talking here about Z64 equipment.
Yes, we are.
And I'm talking about a yoke for the Z64.
Oh my God! Did you have the Zoomer?
I don't know if it's called Zoomer, but I have a yoke for the Z64.
It was I had the Bishu Zoomer, and it was a yoke. It was a flight yoke allegedly for the Z64, and it was the biggest waste of money I ever spent in my life, because it was terrible. And
I know it's pretty inaccurate.
Well, the problem is that it's the C64 is a digital. I mean, yes, I know it has analog. It can take analog inputs, but most games are digital. They want digital inputs. So it's not
interestingly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not an issue of like a gentle turn to the right. It's like, you turn that yoke a little bit to the right, and it's like, you're turning full on. You're diving, or you're cranking your wheel all the way to the right.
I know.
It was
Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, for the Atari, they actually made a Flight Simulator 2 joystick that was analog.
Yeah.
But it didn't sell well, so I never found it on eBay in my 12 years of using eBay. And also, interestingly, there is a game, and that's Refs, the Formula 1 simulator on the C64, that only worked with keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yes, that's what I had too. Yeah, the Zoomer.
And Refs only works with keyboard or with analog joystick. So that means in the 80s, when this game was released, there must have been analog joysticks for the C64, but people didn't buy them.
Right.
Because and there's a second game that supports everything, like light pan. That's why I have a light pan for one game, and it's actually called Shadowfire.
Oh, I was gonna say, what is that? What is that game? But yeah,
Shadowfire.
Okay.
Shadowfire, and Shadowfire supports everything. They support analog joysticks, digital joysticks, mouse, light pan.
Interesting.
But if I had a wish, what kind of controller I would like to have for the C64, I would love to own the CMD trackpad.
CMD trackpad.
Trackball.
Really?
The CMD trackball. That would be something I really would like to own.
Huh. CMD made a trackball?
Yeah. That's really if I would rather have this than the gamepad.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Well, what would you do? I mean, okay, so the trackball obviously would be a mouse alternative, but what else would you do with it? Like what could you?
Well, I could use Lemmings for it, for example. I have a mouse, and the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
use I have for it is actually Lemmings. That's what I'm using it for.
Okay. No geos.
I didn't use Geos
There was
in 22 years.
there was also a Wicco command controlled trackball. It says that I'm looking here, although I don't see a picture of it.
Yeah. Anyway, the trackball is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's one of those things that the trackball is a fascinating concept that was popular for a short time and then vanished in favor of
A mouse.
honestly no actually I would say it fell out of favor in it fell out of use in favor of the trackpad because you had the mouse and some people use trackballs, but early laptops actually incorporated trackballs into the laptop instead of having a mouse, if you recall. Especially
Well,
Apple did that.
Anyway, there are still tons of trackballs from Logitech.
I know of one from Logitech.
No, there are tons.
Huh.
For example, there is if you look on the internet, for example, there is this Logitech M570 trackball. Then there is this Trackman Marble from trackball from Logitech. Then there is the Logitech MX Ergo, which is a trackball.
I used to have the M570. It was slightly I had that. I liked that a lot. That was I enjoyed that trackball.
And it's actually used a lot by handicapped people
Yeah.
that have spastics in their hands and stuff, so they can't actually use a mouse.
Well,
the only way they can use something alternative is a trackball.
Yeah, it's also good for people without much desk space where moving a mouse around would be a pain in the ass.
Right. So
Yeah,
Logitech
yeah.
some models.
Logitech, we love you. Send us some trackballs.
Yeah.
Because I would use one. Because I actually like them.
Gosh.
I prefer them over mice. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked really badly.
Right.
So let's not do
Right.
that.
Okay. So my piece of news is the Digital Retro Park DRP, the museum in Offenbach that we also had an interview with, and they did a virtual tour through the museum with us.
Yes.
A couple of months ago. They also doing a Spreadshirt campaign now, so you can rescue the museum if you want to pay a T-shirt.
And we should clarify for our listeners. Spreadshirt is the name of the campaign. It's not because I got confused.
No, it's the name of the platform
Yeah,
that is
okay, there you go.
offering
Name of the platform
T-shirts.
because I got confused and I was like, you mean a T-shirt or a sweatshirt? So no, it's a Spreadshirt. That is the campaign that they're running to bring up funds.
It's the platform that
Yes.
allows you to run T-shirt campaigns.
Yes.
It's like saying Amazon is a campaign. No, it's not.
Well,
It's a platform that allows you to run campaigns for T-shirt printing.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we will put a link.
Just
to where
like
you
in
can get
America, you have your cafe press.
Cafe Press, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That is cool. Everyone should do that because museums we've talked to, Digital Retro Park, and we just talked to the Maid, and we've talked to For Amusement Only, and especially now, as we're
And you forgot the Yandex Computer Museum in
Yandex
Moscow
Community
and the
Museum,
Bolo
yes.
Museum
Yes,
in the French
Polo.
part of Switzerland.
Yeah, yeah. And especially now in the 9th decade of COVID, you know, these places are really falling on incredibly hard times trying to stay afloat with, you know, with nobody coming out and being forced to close down or at least severely limit the amount of people that can actually be in a building. So they need all the help that they can get. And when this is all over and we're allowed to go outside and interact with other human beings again, I want to be able to go to a computer museum and see this stuff. And I don't want the landscape to be fundamentally altered as far as that sort of, preservation of this stuff. I don't want to come out of COVID and have one of the casualties of COVID being the fact that all this stuff has been lost. Because
cinemas might be dead too. Who knows?
Yeah. That's something I'm not too. I don't mind that so much. I'm perfectly happy.
I do. I love going to the cinema and watch a movie in the cinema seat, and especially if you have something like 3D, because I don't see the way. I don't have enough space for a big 3D TV.
But the 3D doesn't bother you?
No.
Oh, I can't watch it. It gives me a headache.
Well, no, for me it's fine. So and I mean the best thing, some years ago I was on a 3D rumble seat.
Yeah.
Watching the English original of the Star Wars movie on Christmas Day, the 25th, in English original. That was like the best thing ever. Was one of the most expensive cinema tickets I've ever bought. I think it was like 25 euros or something, but it was totally worth it.
Now, see, stuff like that, yeah, Star Wars, something important, like something big, like Star Wars. Absolutely, I want to see it in a theater. But for most other movies, I am perfectly happy to stream it and not. And they are doing that a lot. You know, Wonder Woman 84 is being released in cinema and streaming at the same time. So granted that you're paying like $25 to stream it, but I would gladly pay that rather than go sit next to some coughing idiot in a theater right now.
Well, I mean, since Friday, we have a massive lockdown. You are not allowed to leave your home after 9 p.m.
Yes.
Until 5 a.m.
It's because,
So it's not even possible to go doing errands or going to the parcel package machine, or you are not allowed to go outside past 9 p.m.
We can still go out here, but they've restricted the amount of people that can be in certain areas, and it's only with the holidays coming and the amount of traveling people are doing. Again, I don't know if our listeners are aware that I work in that I am essential personnel, so I still have to go to work through all of this. And the amount of people that I saw on American Thanksgiving a couple of weeks ago was ridiculous.
I know. The same is happening now with Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
People never learned to not meet people.
It's just a consideration for other people. I mean, and now there are people that I know that are now they now have COVID because they tested positive a couple of days after Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, and you were with your whole family 2 days before that. Because
what a surprise.
Yeah, but and now it's a possibility that you've given your whole family COVID because you couldn't stay in and make mashed potatoes in your own damn house for 1 year.
And the problem is, your elderly grandparents or
Yes.
parents
Yes.
as well could die from
Yeah.
your own mistake.
That's right.
That's
right.
amazing, you
That's
know.
right.
And you know, and you have bullshit people that are saying like those people would have died anyway. Yeah, perhaps of a heart attack or something, but not because of COVID. That's
Yeah.
stupid.
They're
I mean,
old.
I mean,
They
anyway,
don't need help. They don't need help
you know,
dying.
the thing is, even if I'm 90, COVID should not be the reason for anybody to
Correct.
die because it was avoidable.
Correct. Yes.
You know, the reason to say he was 90 anyway, so he wouldn't have died he would have died in the next 5 years. That's not up to you to decide.
Right. Exactly.
But
exactly.
the reason to die because of something you could have been avoided, that's like so bad.
Right,
So
right,
bad. And
right.
the thing is, it doesn't help you if you are rich. And if your body can't handle it, it can't handle it.
Right.
The best medicine doesn't help, you know?
I know.
And
I know.
and
I know.
honestly, I don't know how it is in America, but here in Europe, the first country that actually granted an emergency certificate to use the vaccine is Great Britain. And I don't understand why the EU is saying, "Oh, we are making a decision on December 30th." Why do we have to wait? Yeah, because it's not secure. Yeah, what is more secure? Trying a vaccine that is perhaps not 100% functioning, or risking your life going on with this situation right now.
Right.
That's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have tons of people telling you, "Oh, I don't want to be among the first. I want to wait 5 years."
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. The amount of freaking texts I have from people telling me like I'm not going to be. I'm not asking me because in my line of work I would be one of the first people to get the vaccine because I work with people in healthcare, and I know so many people that are willing to quit their jobs rather than get a vaccine that could save the lives of them and their loved ones. And it's like, I can't fathom the stupidity of people, and
Yes, granted, it's a new vaccine, a new kind of vaccine that has never been used before. But hey, we need to have this problem now. You know, I mean, it's like having a heart attack, but your doctor says, "Oh, let's wait till the heart attack gets stronger to see if it kills you or not."
Yeah, right, yeah.
Then you would also not say, "Oh, doctor, don't make a massage to my heart. Let it damage a bit more."
It's like having a heart attack where one of your your aorta is blocked or completely blocked off or something, and being like I don't do the surgery to save my life because it
could kill you.
Yeah, exactly, because it could kill you. Yeah, that's part of the risk. But you know what? It's better than fucking dying. It's like you have a 100% chance of dying or a 5% chance of getting diarrhea. It's like, yeah, I'll take the diarrhea, thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, and people are like people that I know working in in healthcare. They are telling me that, and that's like, aren't you responsible for so many people? Shouldn't you also think about other people?
Yes,
but I'm not aware of the side. I'm fearing the side effects. Yeah, right. So anyway,
I'll take the side effect. The side effects may suck, but you know what sucks more? Dying. So I'll take the side effects over dying. We need to get back on track because I'm getting angry, and I don't like that doing that. Yeah.
And all because of museum.
Yes.
Anyway,
well, no, all because of stupid people and whatnot. But yes, we're gonna put a link to where you can support the museum, and you should definitely support the museum because because these things need to they need to exist and continue existing even after, COVID is over. If this
Anyway,
ever ends.
the first thing I will do after COVID is over is going to a cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to see the new Sonic movie in March for my birthday, but my birthday week was exactly the week they started the first lockdown.
First thing I'm going to do after COVID is I'm going to hug my grandma because
If you
have
are
had
able
contact,
to, if she got vaccinated as well.
well, I would be the one getting the vaccine. So
Yeah, but still mean that you can't infect other people that didn't have the vaccine.
that is true. That is true. I also get tested. I don't know if anyone can notice, but my voice is nasalier than normal because I am tested constantly, and the human body has not been made is not made to have things stuck up your nose this many times. I've got these bags under my eyes. Like this is just it's not. I'll put a picture of me that I can show you a video of me getting
I'm
a
not
test.
sure I want to see that.
Yeah. Maybe we could put that in the in the video when you edit
I'm
it.
not sure I want to have that in the video.
It's pretty
Anyway,
funny.
let's go on.
Getting on with this. Other piece of news I have here is that there is a new game by Control Alt Development. It's a VIC-20 game called Overthrown. And the tagline is "Escape to your presidential retirement or die trying." A dark action game for the VIC-20.
Dark?
And, yes, and it's from what I gather, it's sort of it's a cartridge. It is homemade, and looks interesting. I saw it talked about it kind of like it's a dystopian sort of thing, and kind of like it has Grand Theft Auto vibes to it, despite
Nice.
being a VIC-20. So a VIC-20 game. So check it out. It's downloadable right now. There's a you can download it. It's as a cartridge image, or you can actually purchase the physical cartridge. Where I don't see a price on it. I just see the guy just says, email me if you want one. So we'll put a link to his website where you can do that.
Since I have a VIC-20 Mini, perhaps I should download it.
Yeah, totally.
VIC-20 Maxi, I want to say.
Yes. Yeah, the Vic Maxi. Yeah, definitely.
The
See how it
VIC-20
is.
Maxi.
Yes.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Absolutely.
So send me the link to that.
Yes,
put
I
it
will do
in the
that.
podcast description.
I
Yeah,
will
nice.
send you all the links. I will
Alrighty.
send you everything you need for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time for search engines.
Woohoo! Well, for Petey Vid,
Video.
which is a
Petey Vid.
search engine, but they don't know that yet because we haven't gotten into it. So,
Oh, they know it.
yes. So let's go talk to.
Yeah. Craig Stadler.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast, guys. We have another guest today, and it would be Craig J. Stadler. Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
And we are talking actually today about a video search engine, right?
Right.
I guess you better explain it yourself.
Sure. So everybody knows that YouTube is kind of king of the hill right now, but and they have been for quite some time. But there's a lot of other video providers out there that aren't necessarily given focus or given attention as kind of additional resources, when you're searching for videos on the internet. And one of the things I noticed probably about a year and a half ago was that there were not only a lot of these places that were before, like Dailymotion and Vimeo and Veo and MetaCafe, all these places, they still exist, but they're not as easily found unless they're directly shared. So if you go to a video search engine like Google Video or Bing or DuckDuckGo or any of those places, when you search for video, largely all you're going to get is YouTube for the most part. And so I thought to myself, what if I made a video search engine, because I've been making search engines for quite a while now, that focuses primarily on the resources other than YouTube? And that's kind of where the idea started. I was thinking, there's all these places. Why not make a search engine that caters to stuff that's not on YouTube, or that you can find in other languages or other places? Or so as things rolled out, the more research that I did, I found new places that were coming out, like that had been out, like BitChute, for example, that's an alternative uploading service to YouTube that's less censored and that kind of thing. And then there's a newish social network called Minds that exists, that they carry videos to as well. And there's another one called Brighteon, and just a bunch of these new ones. And so it really made my idea valuable to me, because I was like, what? Not only can they find these other platforms that have existed, but these brand new ones that probably people don't even know about. So that's really where the search engine idea came from, and then various ideas on top of that, obviously. So
You said you doing this since many years already. So how did it all started?
Sure. Well, I've been a programmer for about 40 years now. I started when I was about 10 years old on an Atari 800. Maybe technically it was an Atari 400, back in the day.
Yeah.
Around 1980, I'm guessing, or so, around there. And long story short, my friend at that time, that Christmas, got a computer. His parents got him a computer, hoping he would start, programming and stuff, because it was a big thing, like back then, for parents to encourage their kids to actually use computers for non-gaming and that kind of thing. And so he was not interested in being a programmer at all, but I found it fascinating, and it blew my mind, and that started me on my journey of being a programmer for, like I said, about 40 years now. And so that's really what started me on that path. And of course, that movie Tron came out at the time, which completely blew my mind as well, and made me want to be a programmer and have my own company and make my own software and all that kind of stuff at the age of about 10 or 11, I'm guessing. Maybe 11.
MCP.
Yeah.
Master Control Program.
But more recently, probably in the last 15 years, I was on a job, and we were tasked with having someone come in to build an underlying search architecture for the site that we were working on. And a lot of sites have search engines underneath them. Amazon has one. Lots of e-commerce places do. It's not necessarily just Google or Bing and things like that. Search architecture is under a lot of things that we use on the internet. So we had this contractor come in. He did his work. He was extremely expensive. This was about 15 years ago. He was about $250 an hour, which is US dollars, that's very expensive for an engineer back then, especially. Yeah. And so he came in, he did his job, and they said, okay, well, here's the deal. We don't have enough money to really keep this guy on board, but what we'd like you to do is have a question and answer with this guy and just learn from him, and we'll just get you to do it. And I said, well, yeah, that sounds great. I'm interested in picking up a new skill, and it's kind of fascinating to me. And the architecture was called Apache Solr, which is a very common open source thing or whatever for building search engines and search architecture. And so the more I learned about it, the more interested I got in doing it further, and just kept working on more contracts and more jobs and that kind of thing, and kind of fell into it and enjoyed it and just kept doing it. Now I've been doing that for about 15 years.
So what is your search engine called, actually?
Okay, so the search engine itself has a really kind of interesting, funny story behind it really quick, I'll tell you. So I had the idea to make the search engine, and I'm like, well, I'm going to start out with a really small goal, just a handful of video providers, maybe 10 million videos or so, just something that I could do a proof of concept with, and then get it in front of some people and see how they like it. So I came up with, the code and the front end and that kind of thing, and then I'm like, well, what am I going to call this thing? Because I have to buy a domain, and there's branding, issues, all that stuff. Couldn't come up with a name. I spent probably 3 or 4 days, and everything that I could come up with was either used for a different product on the internet, maybe a cosmetic thing or whatever. Sometimes it's difficult coming up with even a band name, let alone a product. Yeah. And or the name I came up with had been squatted, which means somebody bought the domain and they were sitting on it, hoping that somebody would, pay thousands of dollars for it later on. So I was stuck.
Oh, we had that too. That too, yeah. 4,000 euros.
Yeah, that's, yep. We were seeing the same thing, about like 2,000 US dollars plus, yeah. And so, being the fact that I didn't know if the product was even going to work or how it was going to do, I didn't want to spend all this money on a domain kind of thing. So I gave up, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to let this go. I'm sure it'll come to me, I don't know, when I'm taking a shower, some weird time when I'm not thinking about it. That happens sometimes, you know. And so I'm sitting there a few days later, whatever it was, and my cat was walking by, wanted to give me some attention, some affection, whatever. And my cat is named Petey, Petey. It's a nickname for Pete or Peter kind of thing here in the United States, and I'm sure other places too. And so he was hanging out, just that kind of thing. And he's an orange cat, tabby, I guess it would be. And I was thinking, well, this is pretty simple. I mean, why not use him as the mascot for the website? People like cats and they like mascots. And I knew a professional artist who did caricatures and cartoon forms of like real people and stuff like that. So I called him up and I'm like, hey, will you make a logo of my cat? I'll give you a picture and I'll just call this Petey Vid for short. Petey short for Peter and Vid for video. And branded after him, my cat. And sure enough, no one had ever used the term Petey Vid on the internet. Obviously, it's way too specific. So that worked in my favor, that I could do some really easy branding that way, that if people knew the name and they typed it in, that's the only thing they would get, kind of thing.
Plus about 90% of the videos on the internet are cat videos.
People do really like those, yeah.
That's true.
So that,
yes.
That's
There's even a new category called cat content now. Yeah. Right.
Oh, there is. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, you could also use, like DuckDuckGo, that is actually a child song or something like that. That would have been another possibility.
No, actually, the children's game was never DuckDuckGo. I don't recall that. It was DuckDuckGoose.
That's correct. Yeah. That is. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not American. I might be wrong. Okay.
That could be where they got the idea for the name.
Yeah, I read that on Wikipedia, I think.
Oh, was it? Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the problem. I mean, we spoke a bit earlier, prior to this interview, and we discussed about the main problem is that they took 12 years to get known.
Right.
So you have to be creative, working around this problem yourself. Why should people suddenly get aware of you?
Right. No, that was a really good question. We were having that discussion about. I think things have changed, obviously, in the course of the internet. We're on much shorter timelines, I think, right now, of maybe product lifespans and things like that, unless you're extremely established and that kind of thing, as far as people grabbing onto it and going with it and that kind of thing. And obviously there's concerns of being able to finance something long enough for that to happen. And, I think it took YouTube, I'm probably speaking out of turn, but it took YouTube more than, I'm guessing, like 10 years for them to become profitable and those kinds of things. And so in the conversation, you were saying, it has taken some of these companies this long to be successful and get traction. What are you planning to do to kind of shorten that timeline? And you're right, I don't want to wait 10 or 12 years kind of thing. And to me, 10 or 12 years at this point on the internet looks very different than it did maybe 10 years ago, where things moved a bit slower, I think. So to answer your question, I have written out like kind of 6-month goals of like who to try to talk to and to approach and that kind of thing. Our initial goal was to just get out there, just to kind of be in the game, so to speak. Right. And then it was to contact journalists and bloggers, and then it was to contact librarians. And so we're getting like more and more specific about who the groups are that we're trying to get awareness to. And then that turned into podcasters, which is, part of the reaching out to you guys and some other folks that I've done. And now we're at the point of trying to talk to specifically journalists and writers who deal with specific subjects. Mm-hmm. So we're talking to people that talk specifically about censorship and privacy and bias issues and these types of things. Maybe, people that have written articles about people being upset about YouTube demonetization or anti-Google sentiment or Google alternatives or these kinds of things. So we've gotten more and more specific about who we're trying to talk to because we know that they'll have a ready audience, kind of so to speak. That phrase, you can't be everything to everybody, we're taking that like very seriously at this point and trying to get more specific. Yeah.
Interestingly, it was already useful for us because I was typing in ourselves, and suddenly I found somebody was stealing and re-editing um, the Jerry Ellsworth's video interview we did like 6 years ago, and considered it like re-upload as like our original video was down or something, which of course is BS. We
Right.
never removed anything
Yeah.
from YouTube ourselves or something. So it was actually helpful. So I could write to Daily Moon, and they
Daily Motion.
Daily Motion, right? Thank you. And they removed it within 1 hour, 3 a.m. in the night.
Wow.
So that was pretty fast. Especially considering it's in France. So
Sure.
so and I remember you were totally hyped when I told you about this. Like, well, this is a use case we didn't consider.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are always really great to hear about when someone finds value in your product in kind of an unexpected way. That kind of, I'm starting to consider like that realm of things. I'm not exactly sure how to approach it, but knowing that it can possibly be used for that, for someone using maybe a brand without permission, or editing something without permission, or claiming that they own it, or lots of things like that. It's definitely a possibility. So maybe reaching out to companies that already deal with rights management and things like that, to offer that to them in some way, in a business manner, might be something we could look into. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing I was a bit shocked about was the kind of misuse of our video. I mean, it wasn't just like edited. I was totally removed. Jerry Ellsworth was zoomed in. So it was totally like feminized, Like, okay, that's not the way I want our interview videos to appear on the internet,
Sure.
So that was really weird. And I think, AJ, you said it was mirrored, so it wouldn't.
No, I said that there's a lot of stuff. Daily Motion is one of those sites where you find a lot of kind of bootleg videos on, and a lot of times it'll be TV shows that are just kind of, they mirror the video.
Yeah, mirror.
And that way it doesn't get picked up by by the rights management stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they did that. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'll see that a lot. And credits come on, and it's all backwards and stuff, and
okay.
Or they'll desync the audio a little bit. So it's like it's just off, and again, it's just so that like it doesn't quite meet, like it doesn't match like the searches.
Sure.
Yeah, they did that too. So actually, the quality of this re-upload was totally worse than what we originally uploaded ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks to your search engine, I actually could find it and remove it. That was quite nice.
Cool.
And also it's one of the few search engines that actually covers archive.org too.
Right. Yeah, there was definitely consideration there, in that because the goal is to essentially give people the ability to find things, whatever it is that they want, no matter where it exists. We had to cover every possible place that we could think of. And in doing that, obviously covering the Internet Archive was important. But even beyond that, we found out that the Wayback Machine had been storing copies of YouTube videos all the way back from when they started, which means you can actually go on the Wayback Machine and watch YouTube videos. Not always, but for whatever they've saved. So I wrote some code that would actually figure out what videos the Wayback Machine had that were playable that don't exist on YouTube anymore, and allow people to search for them inside of Petey Vid specifically, and go over to the Wayback Machine and watch them as they existed in that year, whether it was 2006 or that kind of thing.
That must have been horrible to implement.
The code didn't take that long to write. It was running it to kind of get an inventory of all the video IDs that exist on the Internet Archive from the inception of YouTube until last year. Get a list of all those video IDs and then ping them against YouTube to find out which ones exist or not. That process probably took, I want to say, about 3 months with a handful of machines, with at least 4 machines, kind of thing. And then reconciling them and getting that video data. It was totally worth it, though, obviously, because having the ability to find things that don't exist on YouTube for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be for bad reasons or that kind of thing. But if we're going to basically be offering a video search engine that's really robust and has a lot in it, we have to offer everything that we can think of. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. We actually had Jason Scott from the Internet Archive once as an interview, and the big problem the archive seems to have is like organizing searches. So this is sometimes I could find things easier using your search engine than the own search engine of archive.org. So I find this quite interesting, though this implementation is pretty good. I wonder, as you target specifically YouTube and Google as a competitor, didn't they say something about it, or did they even notice that you use their search results too? Or do you just use an API?
We don't use anything in relation to Google. We don't use their video results. Everything that we do is completely independent and outside of what Google does. We don't even use their AdSense. We don't use their tracking. We don't use anything. And it's not because we hate Google or anything. It's just that we know that because the search engine is framed as a privacy-conscious search engine in the same way that maybe Ecosia or Search Encrypt or DuckDuckGo, same kind of thing. Like we don't save user data, we don't have tracking cookies that are invasive or anything like that. We have to make sure that we're very, very careful with the components that we choose to use on the site, because a user, if they found that out, would obviously be very upset, thinking like, hey, you guys said that you were private and that you were, paying attention to like how my data was being shared and saved, but then I found this component that's against that. So we have to be really careful about that. And there's things that I wish that we could do on the site, but we just, we have to be very careful about. So it is a limitation, but we think it's for good reasons. So
now you focus on video. Do you have plans to also maybe allow the same for music, books, or whatever media? Or would that be too much go into general search engines? And you want to stay in your little realm, being very specific?
I'm not against an idea like that. It just seems like the current climate for what it is, and people have their various reasons about being upset with the concentration of power in the big tech companies. One of the things that we found a discrepancy of is, variance of results when it comes to video. And so that's really the only focus that we have right now, is not really competing with like YouTube, because we don't allow people to upload videos. So we're not an upload service, but giving people the opportunity to genuinely find whatever it is that they want, like I said, no matter where that it is, and not be partial to YouTube and not be partial to any particular vendor, I think is really where the value of the product is.
Right.
Which is kind of how the internet used to be in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it started actually, if I remember correctly, like a catalog. That was before internet search engines, actually. Before you had catalogs like Yahoo categories or Alta Vista categories. The search engines actually came later in the history of the internet.
Oh, yeah. A long story short, and this kind of shows the amount of time I've spent experience-wise. I think it was like 1990 or 1991 when I was attending the University, Georgia State in Atlanta, Georgia, here in the United States. I was teaching in my junior year, I think, introduction to the internet to graduate students, and there was no web. It was all telnet, basically, where you would go in with a terminal and it was all pure text, similar to like BBSs and that kind of thing. So that was my kind of introduction to the internet, was, purely text, no browsers, no, it was all straight text terminal stuff. And then, of course, I got to see like Mosaic come out and all that kind of stuff, and all the portal-based, resources like what you're talking about a few years later, that kind of thing. And obviously AOL trying to branch their dial-up into the internet and all that kind of stuff. It's been interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's a lot of incentive for a lot of these other engines, such as like Google, for instance. You mentioned, one of the main things you see is YouTube because, Google and YouTube it's the same thing. So their incentive is to show their own brand first and everything after. So having some place, and that goes for a lot of these places where like they have like a deal with some place or when you look at it, you tend to see the most obvious, what's popular right now,
Tie-in,
and
yeah.
you don't see
Yeah.
the other. Now I just did a search on your site for stuff, and YouTube was not even in the first page, which is great because it showed a bunch of other stuff that I didn't even know existed.
Right. Yeah, and that's the idea. And to your point, I don't really know how I feel about like what it is that's going on and why it's happening. I just know that it is. Part of my theory, if someone said to me like, "Why do you think this is happening?" I think what you're saying is entirely possible. There could be something within the algorithm that's making it go that way because they own that property. I think Dailymotion actually sued them and lost a case for that very reason because they claimed that they were doing that. I think that's certainly possible, but my theory is if you have a really big bag and the bag has 10 million pennies in it, right, and it has 100,000 dimes, maybe. If you reach into that bag and you grab, you're probably going to get mostly pennies, if not all pennies.
Yeah.
Just sheer numbers game alone. And that tends to be what I think is going on. Because there's so much YouTube content, because they've been working it so hard, and they've got such the majority of the marketplace content-wise. I think that's more of what's happening, or it could be a combination of both. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So we had to think about that and being like, oh, so if there's this much data out there of YouTube video, how do we kind of level the playing field? And part of it was like get as much data as possible from these other providers, and then use some kind of means to decide how much YouTube content actually gets in to kind of even it all out. And that's what we did. Can't exactly say how, but
of course.
But the general idea, that's the general idea, is, like I said, to level that playing field, to give people a true, I want to say non-biased experience if possible. Yeah.
Now comparing it to other search engines, I wonder, I mean, for example, DuckDuckGo is now, promoting itself in other browsers and so on.
Right.
And I guess that would be very difficult to do for you, as you are only a video search engine, or only.
Why though? Why?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if people wouldn't prefer a general search engine. I just wonder.
Not if I'm looking for videos. I'd rather have something that was tailor-made for me personally. Anyway, I'd rather have something that was tailor-made for what I'm searching for, rather than just an option on another site.
Yeah, it can kind of go both ways. I think the difficulty in getting into a browser play like what you're talking about is exactly that. Most people don't make their default search engine start up a video search engine or a travel search engine or that kind of thing. And to your effect, the other point too is when somebody does want to book a trip, I think they typically do go to like either an airlines or a search engine like Kayak or something that's specifically for travel rather than going to Google. So I mean, I kind of understand both points, but the other thing too as well is I wanted to bring this up that's really interesting to me is that DuckDuckGo is actually powered by Bing. So I watched a video the other day that were talking about how Ecosia and Search Encrypt and these other places have offered like the privacy angle on top of it, but really the search engine underneath that's being used that's powering it is either by Google or Bing. So they seem to be the only places that are left that are. I mean, I think that Yahoo has their own index. I'm pretty sure they do. I'm not positive, but the brilliance of what DuckDuckGo has done, I think, is just taken essentially what Bing has, let them do all the work, and then put all the great stuff on top of it so that the user kind of, feels better about their experience, and they don't have to say powered by Bing. They don't have to say that kind of thing.
Right.
It's pretty interesting. Whereas we built everything and we own everything from the ground up because there was just no other way kind of thing because, everybody else is kind of just YouTube. So, yeah.
another trick DuckDuckGo is using is the company founders actually active on Quora, this portal where the general public can ask questions, all kinds, and he's often jumping in like, hey, there's another search engine, DuckDuckGo, and maybe we are what you're looking for and stuff, That's another thing, I don't know. You don't. Nowadays you have to be reinventing yourself to be appearing on the internet on places where people don't expect you. I think that is the key. To appear on places where people don't expect you, so they might try you out.
Like the Scene World podcast.
maybe yeah.
No, I do agree with you, because we actually went through several iterations of trying some forms of advertising on different kinds of topics, whether it was like, are you tired of YouTube, are you tired of censorship, just a lot of these different types of things. And Google AdWords just didn't do that well. It was extremely expensive. The click-through wasn't that great. We took the identical campaign, went over to Bing and did the same thing. It did a little bit better. It was kind of more worth the money, so to speak, but still not completely worth the money. And then I was going through a list of like top Google ad competitors, and Quora was on there. And I'm thinking that's kind of a weird place to advertise. But then my mind was like, wait a minute, if people are already there, they're inquisitive, they're open to learning, that might be a really great place to try to do that. And so we tried the same campaign there, and it, through the roof, did amazing. The cost per click were like 2 cents. And the click-through rates were in like 70, 80 percentiles. So it did incredibly well. So we were able to get, a ton of traffic through Quora as well. So I understand why Gabriel from DuckDuckGo would be, on that medium too as well, because if you have the right kind of audience that would be more readily receptive to what you're doing, it would make sense.
Right.
And the difference is people don't expect on that platform to be hit by advertisement. And how many people would research who's the guy that answers them,
Right.
Probably not a lot, if you look what kind of questions are asked there, it's that kind of questions my parents would ask, people that are computer illiterate or something, really. So I of course, I don't know. I probably have a target group in your head. Like, as AJ said, the specific people that want to look for videos not on YouTube.
We're still trying to figure that out, what that demographic looks like, because we did try going through Facebook and looking at some of the demographics and the reporting, and it was kind of all over the place. So that's why at this point, rather than us trying to figure that out and advertise to them, we're going to journalists and groups and people that already have an audience, kind of thing. And
Did
plus,
Petey?
What's that?
Did I just hear Petey?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Going to groups that already have like an engaged audience and not only that, I think there's a trust factor too. I think there's a difference between a listener of your podcast and somebody that just gets an ad. They're going to be a little bit more apprehensive, I think, about an ad and, oh God, not another one of these, that kind of thing. And I think it takes a lot more to get through to a user, just in my opinion, but through an ad as opposed to through someone who has like a trust factor and rapport and is engaged and, that kind of thing. So I think that part makes a lot more sense to us to go after those, Right.
And speaking about trust and security, as we do this here a lot, we have other problems like different markets. For example, China or Russia, who is now considering having their own private internet,
Right.
Russian internet kind of. So I wonder, what is your approach on those markets with a lot of censorship? I mean, for example, in those markets, you can't show YouTube or different kind of video results at all, because there could be results that is anti-government or stuff. Or do you totally leave that out of your focus, such markets?
Well, okay. So to that effect, I think the only thing that we're doing to try to like embrace or provide for those markets is we use the UTF-8 character set, which encompasses all foreign languages, including emoticons and all that kind of stuff. So we made a decision really early on to make the search engine fully multilingual. Now I know that the site itself is actually in English, but sometimes, I've hit sites before that were in Chinese, and if there's a box there and there's a button, I'll try it out, kind of thing, or use Translate or something like that. So as far as supporting other regions, we definitely do that, and we've definitely taken on providers like VK, for example, that's a huge Russian Facebook competitor. And then there's OK.ru, which is a huge Russian YouTube competitor, those kinds of things. And we found, YouTube competitors in all kinds of places, in Indonesia and Iran and just so many different places. So our goal essentially, like kind of tunnel vision, get as much content in as possible so that the user can have the best possible search experience. And then after that, I reached out to several of my friends and said, hey, we think that this is, usable in Farsi. Can you try this out? Because I have no idea. I mean, I can copy and paste some Farsi and put it into it, but I don't know if it's accurate or, even what I'm searching for at that point. So I had friends test the search engine out probably in about 6 to 8 different languages, and everybody was happy with it. So we did do some small focus group testing to make sure that that was the case. And so as far as the censorship angle, we rely on the platforms themselves to decide what is allowed and not allowed in those platforms. Aside from that, we do very little filtering when things come into Petey Vid. The only filtering that we've had to do at all, to my knowledge, was VK, because it's Russian. It seems like they really just don't care if pornography is mixed in with everything else. And so what we had to do was, write some keyword filtering, and so that before it gets into Petey Vid, there's no stuff of, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be illegal here, but certainly pornography has its place outside of like what we're doing, and that's all well and good. But to have it mixed in just didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Kind of thing. So that's the only filtering that we've done. I don't know if you'd call that a bias. It's more so just a choice of, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's really the only censorship that's going on, is whatever the outside platforms decide that they're going to allow on their systems, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, whatever. There's just so many. By the time it gets to us, we believe that they are doing their job to decide whatever that is, and the culmination of all those put together hopefully will give the user a really good, like, broad experience, I think.
That's a very honest answer. Thank you. Right. So, what are the next stepping stones for you? Right now you are going up and down, interviews all over.
Right. Yeah, there's that, and we've been in discussions with another a very, very large video provider at this point. You brought up a really, really good point. I can't say who it is right now because we're just finishing like the deal, so to speak. But you brought up a really interesting point. You said some Petey Vid works better for searching Internet Archive stuff than Internet Archive itself. Well, a company just approached us about 2 weeks ago and said that very same thing. And they said, your search engine is actually better at searching our stuff than ours. And we have no one in-house to actually do this. And because you're an expert at search, you want to work something out. So basically, you can provide and power the searches like on our platform. And their platform gets about 20 to 30 million users a month, which is incredibly huge compared to what we get. And so the win-win situation here is we provide search for them. They don't have to touch it. Everything works great. And then what they do is provide, kind of a seal of approval on us, saying like Petey Vid is providing our search. These guys are cool. Go visit them. And they provide a link right back to our site because we search all these different platforms. So it's kind of a really great like win-win situation. We're getting everything in place, all the codes written, and we're actually testing it this week. And we'll be making a pretty major announcement about that. So it's interesting you bring up that point because I think I'd like to do more of those. Once we can get one of these done, we could maybe start going and talking to other providers and saying, hey, why don't we work together? We're really good at providing search and infrastructure. We'll do this for you, and you can offload that to us, no extra cost, and we'll benefit from each other's relationship.
Yeah.
And we'll benefit from their user base, obviously, and that kind of traffic without actually having to pay for it. And then they don't have to pay for an engineer or servers or any of that stuff. So,
Well,
It's-
yeah, I just brought it up because when we did this interview with the Internet Archive,
right.
we had this topic of using something that is already there and modifying it, or doing something from ground up. I think the example was the Vice C64 emulator. We just approached the coder who did the JavaScript version of it and asked if he could modify it for us. And the Internet Archive said no. We actually took the Vice emulator from Windows, hired a contractor to make a browser version out of it. So they totally did a different approach in like doing something from ground up ourselves, or versus taking something that's already there and asking somebody to modify it, which is actually the same you explained earlier. DuckDuckGo doesn't have its own search engine, but using Bing underlaying, while you are using your own search engine from the ground because you coded it yourself.
Right. Yep. It just seemed kind of necessary at that point. But yeah, that makes sense. Now, did the Internet Archive actually purchase a license to that code for the emulator, or was that already open source or something?
I think Wise is open source, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, Vice is.
Yeah. It's just interesting because I see similarities in problems we had or other interviews we had. And now you say you have a cooperation partner that you can't say who it is, so they would do the exact same thing, having their own search engine and your code underlaying it, saying powered by your product, right?
Right. Yeah, and we would maintain the code base and everything, and basically they just send us the data feed, we index everything, and then provide the search point through the API, and they don't have to maintain anything. So and it's good for us too, because it provides us a direct feed to like all of their data, which we know all of our users are going to want, and then we provide them a specific feedback for only their data on their site. So seems great. Yeah.
Actually, I know that that Google, for example, allows you to use their own search engine on your homepage. So they would index your homepage, and Google site, Google search, Google's. I always forget the product name.
I think it's just called custom search or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not very good in a way.
I never really liked the output of it. I don't know. I mean, the relevance seemed okay, but the output just seems so like general and you couldn't customize it, and it only looked one way, and cool idea, but I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe that is where your product can shine and say, like, offering ourselves to future video video portals or something,
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
Yeah, because there will come a time when YouTube will collapse into a pile of dust. It's inevitable, because that's the way the internet works, and having the ability to already have a good database of all this stuff and a place to search this stuff that's not just that, is important. And you were going to say something?
Oh,
No.
just that. Oh, yes. No, I was going to say, from my experience and the research that I've done, because obviously writing all that code, like I was talking about, to find out what used to be in YouTube but isn't any longer. What I noticed was, I feel very strongly about this point, is I think in the earlier days of YouTube, when Google bought them, and then slightly after that, it was pretty much, besides pornography, like anything goes. Because I think that they were in a place where they wanted to build their user base as massively and as quickly as possible.
Right.
And I think that they knew, and again, this is just an opinion, they knew kind of all the way along that at a certain point they were going to have to cut back. and basically change things, because advertisers aren't going to put up with that, and they're not going to want to be associated with certain things. And when it comes to the stockholders and, you know, the profit of the company, and the advertisers are holding the purse strings, like most, if not entirely, I would think. And so you're kind of at the mercy of the advertisers at that point. So they build things up. We're not making money, but we're getting this huge user base over all these years. Sure enough, they did. And then they start turning on the fire hose, the advertisers,
Yeah.
and then they have to start cleaning house. And I really think that's what happened. And now that they're doing that, you know, kind of, it's like the frog in the boiling water kind of thing. You know, maybe they
Right.
won't notice if we just, but now I think it's at a critical mass where people are starting to get upset. They're getting pissed off. They're leaving, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like with Joe Rogan, the famous podcaster, they said you can't interview certain people, and so he left, kind of thing. That kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
I think really what's going to happen with them is they're going to basically really, really limit and define their market share, and it's going to cut them back, but they're still going to make a ton of money. So I think it's really adjusting what their model is, and hopefully not getting in trouble with, you know, government agencies and things like that, and lawsuits in the process. And I think that they'll eventually settle at some point. And I think that some of these other providers will rise up to provide for that market that they're no longer, or that they're excluding, essentially.
Right.
Which I look
Right.
forward to. I'm hoping that's what happens, kind of thing. So I think they'll still have their place, and it'll still be like squeaky clean with like they want. But the people that, you know, leave for whatever reason will either develop new platforms or go to them, and that kind of thing. And that's what I'm hoping for. But in the wake of that, I'm glad that we're doing what we're doing to at least give people the options and the visibility of all the stuff that's out there that they don't even know about, kind of thing. So
Right.
And then there is this other kind of internet users like Alex Jones, who got blocked from all places, Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah.
Google, Apple, all at once.
right.
That's the special
he's-
kind of.
He's actually gone on. He's on Minds, and he's on. They have their own video platform called Band.video, and then of course they are on. Can't remember the other. They're on BitChute, definitely, on Minds, on Brighteon. So they've definitely found a place to go. But the thing is their audience isn't significant as it was all those other platforms,
Right.
kind of thing. But you know, like I said, people will find their place to go and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And that guy's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
Well, you know, sometimes it's like, oh gosh, no, can't believe it. You know, can't believe it. Yeah. Yes, I was about to say something, but I totally forgot what it was.
Alex Jones just flushed it right out of your head.
Well, it's just a topic because, you know, it feels like in the USA, there is a lot of controversial people, including your own president, going right now, and I just wonder, you as a search engine, how you approach that. I mean, in a way, you also have to be careful to not be misused by, you know, the wrong powers.
Yeah, I don't. As far as I have not been able to think of any kind of use case that would happen. I'm not saying that it can't, and I'm certainly hoping that it won't. But because we're at this level that's a bit like second tier, so to speak. The first tier would be Twitter. All right, they're the ones responsible for making sure that the content there is not, containing personally identifiable information or doxing or any of that kind of stuff. They're responsible for that first and foremost. So we're a layer below that. So we believe that these platforms have done their due diligence to make sure that stuff doesn't exist. So by the time it gets to us, we're good.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think, anyways. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but because obviously, other countries might have different standards and different rules for those types of things.
Yeah, that's always the risk if you say you try to index all kind of video platforms. You don't know what you are dealing with at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, they are like audited by hand. So me and a couple other people actually go through. We do searches. We look to see what's there. We look to make sure that there's not like torture porn or whatever, you just ridiculous, or maybe even illegal things. I would hope not illegal. We've never seen anything like that, but you know what I mean? Things that we would not want. And if we do find that, we'll basically dismiss the platform kind of thing. Or if they don't have enough videos or they're too old or, there's criteria involved there.
Oh yeah, actually, I remember my point now that I forgot earlier. You said that YouTube is started to be disliked by a lot because they are sorting out content versus not being friendly to advertisers. And actually, we had the same with our Reporters Without Borders interview. Within seconds, we were flagged as not advertisement friendly. So and then you have to make a manual appeal for somebody to go over it.
Yeah, and of course that never happens, or it's a convoluted process to get it done. A lot of people, or the copyright claims too. I don't think we've been hit by that. But
a couple of times before YouTube had this agreement with German rights holders here for the music industry, but that was basically a German problem, not internationally.
Yeah, no, there's a big problem with people that essentially, if you're creating ad revenue on YouTube, anybody can file a copyright claim against you. And I believe that while that claim is being investigated, the ad revenue goes to them until they sort it out, and then it goes back to you or whatever. But it's there's a lot of people that really popular videos get this a lot because people these copyright kind of squatters, they don't even own the copyright. They're just filing a claim because it's and I don't know if YouTube, they may have fixed that by now. That might not be a thing anymore, but it was for a while. And it's just, I know of a few people that had, highly watched videos and were just getting smacked constantly by copyright violation notices when it was stuff that they had made themselves. And there was nothing on there that was even remotely, could belong to anybody else.
Yeah, to that point, I have an account on YouTube kind of thing, and I want to say 6 months ago, all of a sudden I got this email that says your account has been disabled, and it wasn't my Gmail or anything like that. It was just only my YouTube. I went to log in, and it was like you have been disabled, and it gave this huge list of possibilities of what it could be, and I was like, I have no idea which one this could possibly. I have like 3 videos that's it on YouTube, and it doesn't match any of these. There's no violent content. There's no just all this stuff, And so I filed an appeal, and they wrote back and they said within a couple hours, like, denied. And then I did it like a couple of days later, and they wrote back denied, but they didn't tell me why. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who used to work for YouTube kind of thing, and I think it was in San Jose or Palo Alto or something. But I said, dude, man, this is really weird and it's freaking me out. It's like I don't really use this channel, but it's really concerning to me that this has happened, and I'm not being told the reason why. And I, apply basically like asking, still get told denied without any reason again. And he said to me, oh, well, there's all these people that like are on these recourse basically channels that basically can make decisions based on whether they feel like it or not, and the rules are really loose. And he's like, just wait a couple weeks and do it again, and if you do it enough times, they'll go ahead and give it back to you. And I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Right, yeah.
Because like they should be consistent with their terms, they should be consistent with their policies, they should be consistent with their communication, just all this stuff. So sure enough, I did it a few weeks later, and it got denied again. And I was like, okay, I give up. And probably like 3 months went by, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try again for the hell of it. I don't know. And they wrote me back, and they were like, oh, we're sorry, this was a mistake, and they turned it back on. But I had to wait 3 months. Yeah. And it wasn't like there was no monetization going on. There was nothing like that at all. This was just me being curious about, like, why am I being treated like this? So I can imagine if it was something that was part of your livelihood and that's how you made, your living, and that'd be extremely upsetting not to be able to have any recourse or direct communication with the company that's controlling all that. It just doesn't seem fair. Like, If you do something wrong and it's against the terms, the company should be able to say, here are the terms. This is what you did. This is why we're cutting you
Right.
off. End of story.
Right.
If you want to debate that point, then,
Mhm.
but really, I think that's what people are mostly getting upset about is the way that they're treating, the users and the customer service and the lack of transparency and all those kinds of things. That's what people are pissed off about. Yeah.
Yeah, we had the same problem when Google Plus was still around.
Oh,
I
God.
was promoting a review video one of our editors did, and I posted it on too many Google groups, so the automatically spam detector kicked in and disabled our account, and then I reappealed like 10 times, denied, and then I let AJ do it. He tried it one time and they was like accepted.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Same kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Just because I'm German and Jay is American or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's totally weird. Yeah.
But let's try not to talk about Google because right now we seem to be running a contest for how many times we can say Google in a podcast about a competitor to Google.
Right. Yeah. Well, we are talking about search engines, So naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
We will not put a link to Google in the podcast description.
Yeah. You see, the problem here is that many people think that this is actually the internet.
Yeah. Yes, they do. Oh my God, they do. Yes. No. That's the thing. People, you give them a website and they automatically search it. And they don't even look. They don't even just enter it in the search bar. They enter it in. They go to Google and they enter it, and it's like,
Exactly.
No, don't do that.
And this is how you go to phishing sites and lose your passwords. If not clicking in an email on it, you are clicking on a wrong advertisement link and if you could make your search engine like the number one stop for video searching, that would be maybe a good idea. But of course, that's maybe a bit far-fetched. I mean, this will not happen within probably half a year or something.
I think what we've started to think about is that whole thing in a different way, because in interviewing people initially, they all told me, like, I don't use Google video search, I just go straight to YouTube. And I think that's what Google wanted, right? So if people in the last decade or so have had this mindset of like, I'm not going to go to a search engine, I'm just going to go straight to YouTube, I'm already out of that picture because I am a search engine. Which means the only thing that I can do at this point is to try to appeal to the audience that would best appreciate what it is that I'm doing. Not as a search engine necessarily, but for the data that I have, if that makes sense. Because if Google has already translated or transitioned all those users from going to a search engine to going directly to their product, I've already lost. I'm not even a part of that equation at this point because they've already got people in the front door. There's no way I can take them away from that. What I have to do is appeal to the people who are not wanting to use, YouTube to find videos, or that are looking for something that doesn't exist there, or an alternative, or that kind of thing. But the idea, I think, of the end consumer product just wanting a search engine is kind of dated at this point. I don't mean to sound like an old man or something, I'm starting to embrace that idea that, where people's general online consciousness kind of thing is, it's not necessarily about, like you were talking about in the early days with the portal stuff, right? And at that day and age, and before that, it was Telnet and going to a terminal and that kind of thing. What people's delivery mechanism and like ingestion mechanism of information is changing, I think. And then once mobile came out, that came to like push notifications, where now they're not even searching for stuff. The phone just tells them.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. So that's another thing that we're starting to think about, because for the longest period, my headset was like, build this product and then we'll be a search engine and then XYZ. Well, I'm not sure that's the right way to go. The benefit to what we've done is we've built a really good product with over 500 million videos in every language from 70 platforms, which I think is great. But I think the most important thing for us right now is to talk about what's the right way of delivering that. And it may not be just a search box with a button. because it may be that people want an app that they're just going to put a bunch of keywords in and the phone will tell them when it finds what they want, no matter what day and time it is. That could be like a better delivery mechanism that's more closer to what people are kind of used to at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah,
Yes, it
that's kind of
does.
where my head's at. Yeah. It's almost like when the Portal came out and the Portal was getting really big with the Yahoo stuff and everything, that Portal idea of somebody saying, yeah, I'm going to make this, great resource, but it's only going to be available in terminal. Like, it'd be like, you're missing the point. That's not how people want things right now. It may be great that you've done this, but like people aren't necessarily going to care because it's in terminal. People are all about portals now. And that's kind of where I'm, milling that around. I'm not saying it's a for sure, but I think it's got a certain amount of merit. And I think I want to start talking to a lot of different types of people about that idea is like, I don't know, it's an interesting thing to think about because it could be, I don't want the product to necessarily fail just because we're stuck on one particular delivery method.
Yes.
It may be that something else is better. So.
And that's a great business plan too, because it's not necessarily that you're taking on when a lot of search engines come out, they're like, we're taking on the big ones. We're going to try to become the biggest thing around. Whereas you're looking at it more like we can coexist with this. We've got our own plan and our own business model that doesn't really necessarily involve taking down the big guys.
Right. Yeah, because I think that's suicidal for lack of a better term. It's just like, it's just not realistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to be said to us coming into this market and having like a very neutral position, being like, we're a value add, we're just another option. It's not us against them. It just seems to be like a lot more, or a lot less defensive and a lot less, I don't know the right word for it, but yeah, when I hear that in advertising sometimes, we're the next blah, 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 we're going to be better than this. I'm immediately kind of, I don't want to say turned off, but it just makes me feel like a little weird, like cringy.
Yeah.
Like.
Right.
And another example for going a different approach, for example, was Opera back in the day when the Nintendo Wii was released. Opera. Okay. I can't pronounce it correct.
Oprah was a talk show host.
Oh.
They used to give out cards to her audience. Well, I think she retired, didn't she?
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I totally got you though. Yeah.
I'm not into American talk shows. Anyway, they actually made a contract with Nintendo to be the exclusive browser on the Nintendo Wii.
And did that actually happen? Did they deliver that? Yeah.
They did. Yeah.
I don't even know. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how they approached a new target group: gamers on their TV or casual gamers, better to say, who want to quickly browse something, and then the only browser available was Opera, or how is
Opera?
Oh, I get it. Yeah. That's really cool. I didn't even know that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because this contract only lasted for a year or something, but it's better than nothing. Really.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's good exposure. That's huge. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that's the other thing we thought about too as well is, what if we were able to deliver this through a smart TV?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously browsers on smart TVs are like no good from my experience. They're kind of garbage, but developing some kind of TV app to let people search for, because I mean, there's a YouTube TV app, so.
Right.
Why couldn't there be, a TV app to let people do video searching? With just, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
outside of YouTube.
Or Huawei, who everybody calls Huawei. But,
Huawei, yeah.
Huawei, they actually don't use they don't use Android anymore on new smartphones, so they can't use the Google or YouTube search engine or something. That's maybe another. But
absolutely.
That would be coming back to the China and governmental question, of course.
It would, yeah. And we did try to contact when that whole kind of rift thing happened with Huawei and Google and all that stuff. And I think it may have even been when Trump started the presidency here. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But we actually reached out to a couple of people in Huawei to try to find out, like, what are your plans here as far as, like, what are you going to do now that, like, you can't offer the YouTube app kind of thing, and here's what we do, and maybe we could help provide something in regards to whatever your native OS, setup is. But unfortunately, we weren't able to reach anybody. I tried to contact probably about 4 or 5 different people on LinkedIn. Didn't try to call anyone necessarily, but at least tried to do that through LinkedIn. So who knows, maybe someday they'll, get back to us or something. But I'm on the same page. It's totally possible. Yeah. Non-conventional partnerships and that kind of thing. Another thing we thought about too is if there's a lot of sites out there for downloading videos, to download a video off of Facebook or Twitter or whatever kind of thing, and they have an engaged user base that's interested in videos and downloading them, why not give them a way to search for those videos?
Right.
Kind of, like a easy tie-in. So yeah, definitely on board for, and always trying to think of new, maybe unconventional, unobvious things to do that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Switch search engine for the Nintendo Switch. But they have YouTube. They have a YouTube app already.
Well.
It's interesting that you thought about this already. Okay. Of course you did. I guess that was one of your first thoughts, looking for.
It's kind of his job.
No, but you never know. Sometimes, just the obvious escapes you kind of thing. I mean, that's a really good idea about the browser situation with the video gaming platform too as well. I wouldn't have necessarily thought about that. I think that was smart of Opera to try to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have like search engine results that are totally horrible. For example, there is this platform GOG, Good Old Games, and they have this app GOG Galaxy. And if you go to the store, you can see screenshots and videos of the game you are about to buy, right? And they have some algorithm to look for a video of the game in YouTube, and it's totally wrong most of the time. So it's very often it's from the wrong game,
Yeah, it's probably using the API or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the name is the name is similar, or there was a different version of the game, or it was a successor or whatsoever. So that is also probably a place where they could use a better video result.
Possibly, yeah. Those are really tricky. Yeah, depending on how general the name of the game is, kind of thing. Have you heard of that game from Playdead called Inside?
Oh yes.
Playdead Studios. I think they did Limbo.
Right.
I have Inside on my iPhone actually.
Yeah. That game is incredible. I love that game. I'm not even a gamer. I don't even really like modern games, but I sat down with my wife and we several days got through the entire thing. It was so much fun, kind of thing. I guess what I was saying is in regards to that, you reminded me of the Steam interface. So when you're in Steam, when you go to buy the game, they have a video there of some of the playthrough and that kind of thing. And I think, that's maybe what they were trying to do, but with an API and the name being so incredibly general, like Inside, like how would you even match that to a game? It could be that movie, Inside Out. It could be, I don't know, Inside My Car.
Right.
I don't know, right?
Right.
Yeah, so the key factor is having some people that go over what the API does and confirm it manually. But I guess the smaller the company, the less likely it is to happen.
Yeah, and if the library is incredibly large, who's going to go through 10,000 titles kind of thing? And is it even worth the amount of money it would take to do that? To pay someone to do that, but you do the best you can sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, so from my side, I got it covered.
So where can people go to find out about this? Where can they find this online and read more about it and such?
Actually, I did want to add one thing.
Sure.
Because you guys mentioned the Commodore 64, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
So I wanted to say one of my favorite games back in the day when I was a kid, I was probably like 12, was this game called Impossible Mission.
Yes.
You remember
Oh
that?
yes.
Oh yeah.
Loved that game, and with the talking and stuff in it. It was so
Yeah.
great. It was like
Stay
way
a while,
better.
stay forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
loved that game. I always wanted them to make that on the Atari, and they never did. That was one of those games. It's kind of like, there are certain games for certain platforms, like the Apple II. There was a great game called like Swashbuckler, and then there was good, adventure games, text adventure games that were only made for one platform, and it was really upsetting because you had companies like Sierra Online that would make games for all the platforms, or like
Yeah.
Adventure International and stuff like that. But occasionally there was, only ones that existed for one platform, and that was my favorite C64 game.
That was a great game.
Interestingly, I 5 years ago I interviewed Forrest Moser, who invented the speech synthesis. That
For the
was
C64, yeah.
yeah,
for that game.
in general, the whole.
Oh, in general.
technology. Yeah.
Okay.
And he this technique he invented was actually used in Mission Impossible and 1 year earlier in Ghostbusters, which was also released on the Atari 800. So, and Forrest Moser himself, he spoke in this Ghostbusters, ha 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 ha, and he slimed me, So, and it's interesting because this guy was in his 50s, and when I interviewed him, he was 88.
Oh wow! Okay.
And nowadays he is 92. Just a little side story from this Impossible Mission thing, because we always try to get the stories from all possible sides. So this is also good. Because before we interviewed you, we had a while ago the archive.org, so we can relate to other content we had before in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But search engine, that's a new thing that we didn't have before as a topic,
Yeah. So to your point, the website is Petey Vid. It's PETEYVID.com. Think about the word Petey, short for Peter, and then vid is short for video, peteyvid.com. We'll take you there, and there is your standard search box. There's also a section that shows the top keywords on the internet at this time, where you can search for the top topics, whether it's COVID-19 or President Trump or whatever kind of thing. It's international, the list there. And it also provides a top video hashtag list as well. Okay. So we gather hashtags from all the major, social media properties. So you can look at the top video hashtags and click on the hashtag, and it'll show all the videos from all the different places, whether it's Twitter or VK or all those kind of things. So we've tried to add some extra, features in there. And then the other thing too, as well, is when you get your search results, if it happens to have a hashtag in it, it's hyperlinked. So if you find a hashtag in a result, you can click on that hashtag and it'll show you all the videos that are marked with that hashtag. Just kind of fun, because then you can see other places, other videos, other authors that have used the same, hashtag to describe their videos, kind of thing. Just as something a little bit extra or different than a regular search engine. Yeah.
Maybe people will find this video also in your site.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Over the search engine,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
Absolutely. We will put links to everything in the podcast description below, and probably on the screen right there where people can
Right.
Awesome.
look.
So thanks a lot, Craig, for the time.
Yes, thank you for sitting with us. This was awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's fun.
I learned a lot today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So enjoy your day.
Yes.
You too.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Have
Bye-bye.
a good one.